So I just had a message from Ira, who's controlling things from behind the scenes. And I think, Naoko, I think we're ready to go. Yeah. So yeah, you good to go?
Yeah.
Good. Well, good morning to those of you that are joining us from Scotland, and konnichiwa to those to our Japanese friends who are contributing today and hopefully participating as an audience too. So my name is Andrew Parkinson, and I'm the curator here at the Peer Arts Centre in Stromness, Orkney. Welcome to this special event, which marks an important staging post for the Rock Cycle Yamaguchi project, the book launch of this very fine book that has just gone on sale through our website. So the Rock Cycle Yamaguchi is a project that brings together artists and scientists from Scotland and Japan to explore common themes in art, science, and geology. The project highlights the work of Ilana Halperin, an artist from New York who has made her home in Glasgow, and Naoko Mabon, a curator from Japan, now based in Oban, also on the west coast of Scotland. Naoko will shortly introduce us to the project as well as to the distinguished panel of speakers for today's event, but I'd like to just say a few words just to set the scene. Some of you may know that there are strong links between Orkney and Japan that have been fostered in recent years through the efforts to generate energy from the seas around the islands. Engineers from global Japanese corporations, including Mitsubishi and Kawasaki, have visited Orkney to develop marine and tidal energy devices in some of the most testing waters in the world. The climate crisis is a global concern, and we hope that the international efforts currently being made by scientists and engineers from Orkney, Japan, as well as from around the world, will help find sustainable solutions for us all. The Peer Arts Centre's own association with Japan goes back a good number of years too, and we have been pleased to help Japanese artists and musicians spend time living and working in Orkney, presenting their work in the gallery, hosting talks, workshops, and community events. Indeed, the broader links between Orkney and Japan have recently been underlined through the Orkney-Japan Association. Though formally constituted in 2019, it has been active in encouraging cooperation and exchange between the two island communities for a number of years. This project with Ilana and Naoko, conceived in Scotland and developed in Japan, will return to Scotland in 2022 when the Rock Cycle exhibition comes to the Peer Arts Centre. It is our hope that we may be able to meet together then to enjoy the results of Ilana's inquiring and creative mind and Naoko's curatorial and collaborative capabilities. So just before I hand over to Naoko, I have just one or two small things to mention. Firstly, your cameras and microphones are switched off, so you don't need to worry, we can't see or hear you. Further into the presentation, there will be a Q&A session just towards the end of the presentations. So please ask any questions or add comments you might think through the Q&A tab, and we will ask as many of the questions as we can to the panel towards the end. So the event is being recorded and it will be available to view on the Peer Arts Centre's website in the coming weeks. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Naoko, who's going to introduce the Rock Cycle Yamaguchi project, as well as the participants taking part in today's events. So thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Andrew. That's wonderful. Hello, everyone. Konbanwa. I'm Naoko Mabon. I'm a curator based in Oban. First of all, I'd like to thank you very much to the Peer Arts Centre for hosting today's event, and to everyone for coming along today, especially in Scotland. It's a Saturday morning and a glorious sun. Well, we have in Oban, so I appreciate you starting your weekend quite early. And in Japan, it's Saturday evening, six, I think, half six. So I appreciate you chose us over Saturday Night Fever. I'm facilitating today's event, which celebrates the launch of the new publication of Rock Cycle Yamaguchi project. The Rock Cycle Yamaguchi is a cross-disciplinary project by Ilana Halperin between Yamaguchi and Scotland. Building on Ilana's 2-week residency in 2018 at the AKIYOSHI-DAI International Art Village, also known as AIAV, the project was launched at the beginning of 2019, marking our second Japan-Scotland exchange after the geologic intimacy Yunohana project, linking Beppu on Kyushu Island and Aberdeen. Through research and outreach activities crossing visual art and natural science, hosted by Yamaguchi University's AKIYOSHI-DAI Academic Center and the research laboratory of Professor Yoshihisa Nakano, Ilana has developed a new body of work utilizing materials and narrative unique to Yamaguchi, culminating in 3 parallel solo exhibitions in autumn 2019 in Yamaguchi, including AKIYOSHI-DAI Museum of Natural History, AIAV, and MINE-AKIYOSHIDAI Karst Plateau GEOPARK Center. Back in Scotland, Ilana planned to create new work responding to Yamaguchi and the geological and archaeological context of Orkney. The PART Center in Stromness will host an exhibition featuring Ilana's new works in conversation with thematically resonant works by Yamaguchi-based artist Yoshihisa Nakano and Keijiro Suzuki. This Scottish strand of the project was originally planned in 2020. However, it's been postponed due to the pandemic. And now we are looking at a new date for our exhibition at PIA, which is next autumn, 2022. The project is funded by AKIYOSHI-DAI Academic Center, Yamaguchi University, Creative Scotland, the Great Britain Sasakawa Foundation, and the PART Center. It is also an official event of Japan Season of Culture in the UK and an affiliate program of UK in Japan. There is a very long list of supporters for our project, which sadly I won't be able to read out in full today, but so many people and institutions have supported our project to date, and both Ilana and I are truly grateful for their generous support. So when everything was paused due to the pandemic, after we came back from Yamaguchi, proceeding with making a publication was one positive response that Ilana and myself made to the gap and absence of physicality and corporeal warmth caused by the pandemic. As well as illustrating the project in a poetic form, this new little artist's book, designed by Gabriel Darnan of a graphical house in Glasgow, also keeps our ongoing deep geological exploration alive and tactile. Hosted by the PART Center, this celebration allows us to stay connected with both familiar and new faces across locations and grow existing exchanges between Japan, Orkney, and Scotland into the future, while waiting for our upcoming exhibition at PIA. Thank you, Keijiro. I will give a very brief introduction of our speakers today. First, Ilana Halperin, who is a New York-born artist living in Glasgow and Isle of Bute. Her work explores the relationship between geology and daily life. She combines an active studio-based practice with field work in diverse locations, such as on volcanoes in Hawaii, caves in France, and geothermal springs in Japan. Ilana's work has featured in both solo and group exhibitions worldwide, including the latest solo exhibition, There's a Volcano Behind My House, at Mount Stuart on Bute, which will open next week. Also, it's an active note to add that Ilana shares her birthday with the Eldfell volcano in Iceland. And we have our 3 key collaborators today joining from Yamaguchi, who contributed to the publication as well. Yoshihisa Nakano is an artist and professor at Yamaguchi University. After completing graduate studies at Tokyo University of the Arts, as a co-worker, he stayed at Temple Hill community near Aberdeen in Scotland for twice in 1994 and 98 to experience small community life and research about thoughts and works of Rudolf Steiner. Ever since, he's had a strong belief in the potential abilities of the human being and has created a number of artworks. In our project, Nakano Sensei is one of the main organizers and host as an academic, but he's been involved as an experienced creative practitioner. Keijiro Suzuki is an interdisciplinary contemporary artist. He studied humanities and social sciences at Nagoya City University and completed a master's in sculpture at University of Houston in Texas in 2010. He has constantly attempted projects that examine social and community issues by analyzing local and global context. Keijiro's involvement has developed the project a lot. He generously shared his extensive cultural knowledge and networks of Yamaguchi and connected us to various local people and context, as well as producing thematically resonant field workshops for Ilana's public event in Yamaguchi. And Kazuhiro Tanaka. Tanaka Sensei is a Professor Emeritus, Trustee, and Vice President at the University, Yamaguchi University, and a scientist in the field of applied geology. After studying geology and mineralogy at the Faculty of Science at Yamaguchi University, he gained an MA and doctorate from Kyushu University. Tanaka Sensei is the first director of the Yamaguchi Gaku Local Study Research Center, which was inaugurated in 2015. He is one of the biggest collaborators of our project as a scientist. Without his support, generosity, and curiosity, one of Ilana's main sculptural works would not have been possible. So this is our exciting lineup of speakers today. I'll stop here because I feel like I spoke too much already. And I'll pass over to Ilana for a performative talk. And after Ilana's talk, as Andrew mentioned, we will be joined by all the speakers for the conversation. Then at the end, there should be some time for Q&A with the audience members. So please feel free to pop your question in the chat box so that we can pick them up later on. So thank you very much once again. And we now welcome Ilana.
Good morning and good afternoon. And welcome to this celebration to mark the publication of the rock cycle Yamaguchi. I would like to begin my presentation by thanking Yamaguchi University, AKIYOSHI-DAI Academic Center, namely Tanaka Sensei and Wakita Sensei, AKIYOSHI-DAI Museum of Natural History, AIAV, KARSTAR GEOPARK Center, Creative Scotland, Dundee Contemporary Arts, and the Great Britain Sasakawa Foundation. Thank you too to Keijiro Suzuki for being an amazing artist and introducing us to so many wonders of Yamaguchi. I would like to thank Nakano Sensei for inviting me to Yamaguchi to engage with the deep time story of karst in Yamaguchi, and to all the wonderful partners and colleagues we met, worked, and collaborated with through the course of this cross-disciplinary project. Importantly, I would like to thank Naoko Mabon for being a sensitive and visionary curator. It has been such a pleasure to develop this ongoing project with you. Lastly, I would like to thank everyone at Peer Arts Centre for being our Scottish partners on this geologic endeavor. I look forward to developing our conversations and work on the rock cycle together in the not too distant future. Arigato gozaimasu. Through the lens of Yamaguchi and Scotland, the rock cycle Yamaguchi considers new ways of imagining our relationship to the natural world. The project draws inspiration from the rock cycle, a geological concept that describes how rocks change from one type to another through geologic time. Each chapter within the project represents a different stage within the cycle, though a subtle artistic intervention introduces the idea of life or a biological stage in the process. Through the project, we ask, what might shift in our understanding of and relationship with AKIYOSHI-DAI and with geology and geological time as a whole if we imagine ourselves both poetically and materially as part of the rock cycle? For example, can we begin to consider ourselves as part of a deep time calcium carbonate family tree, from Fusulina to coral to our bones and teeth? Building on a 2-week research residency in 2018 hosted by AKIYOSHI-DAI International Artist Village, over 18 months, I developed a new cross-disciplinary project between Scotland and Japan with Naoko. My mobile research residency combined periods of fieldwork in remote geological sites such as AKIYOSHI-DAI, a quasi-national park in Yamaguchi Prefecture, which has the highest concentration of karst, limestone, formations in Japan, and AKIYOSHI-DAI, the nation's largest and longest limestone cave, with active engagement within the contemporary arts community of Yamaguchi. Just prior to the start of my initial residency in AKIYOSHI-DAI, my work had begun to focus on creating an embodied understanding of karst. For example, I had made a new piece for CAPC, an art center in France located in the limestone city of Bordeaux, entitled The Rock Cycle, which featured new geological sculptures and a performance about how we as carbonate life forms will one day be limestone. So, the significance of the Yamaguchi karst and mineral landscape made for an extremely powerful match for new developments within my practice. These interests continue to impact my thinking and have informed a new branch of the rock cycle, which can soon be seen at Mount Stewart. To provide a bit of further background on how this project has evolved, I will describe some of the stages of the research process within the project, as well as the experimental production processes we used to create the artwork, both here in Yamaguchi and back in Scotland. In May of 2018, during my fellowship with AIAV, we visited a vast diversity of geological, historical, and contemporary sites across Yamaguchi. A few key places we explored include the AKIYOSHI-DAI Karst Plateau, the AKIYOSHI-DAI Natural Science Museum, AKIYOSHI-DAI Cave, Naganabori Copper Museum and Mine, where copper was sourced to make the Great Buddha in Nara, and Ando Marble Quarry. We spent an afternoon with HAGI pottery masters at Meizengama Pottery, went to see the basalt remains of volcanoes in HAGI, visited Chijimatsu, a local Tokuji washi paper studio, and finally, we had the honor to accompany Tanaka sensei to Kibutani Onsen to witness the unique geological activities of this site. Here are a few thoughts which grew out of these visits and inspired ideas for the rock cycle Yamaguchi. At Ando Marble Quarry, I saw fossils made of marble, observing the transformation of material from coral to limestone and onwards. In the ancient copper mine at Naganabori, I witnessed small seams in the carbonate rock, where minerals grew and formed in a dynamic relationship. I spoke with potters at Meizengama Pottery who had a deep knowledge of clay and how it may interact and behave with different materials, including mica and on. All of these field experiences brought into a sharp focus an entirely new awareness of the complexity of karst landscapes. Building on my exploratory research residency in 2018, we returned to Yamaguchi in February 2019. During this trip, we embarked on further research around Yamaguchi and carried out a series of experimental geological art processes to develop deeper understanding about this remarkable region. We noticed that our research began to focus on two distinct but interrelated branches of exploration. On the one hand, we had been looking at time and processes of formation in order to perhaps relate in new ways to the karst formations of AKIYOSHI-DAI. On the other hand, we had been looking at a more aerial, narrative, and poetic response to the idea of the calcium carbonate cycle of AKIYOSHI-DAI and the vast diversities of materials and life forms which are part of this deep time family. We began to research the development of new work which would incorporate coral, limestone, marble, malachite, copper, all materials which form different stages within the calcium rock cycle. We also began to consider the wider geological processes that formed Yamaguchi overall. The combination of these lines of inquiry manifested in the three interlinked exhibitions across AKIYOSHI-DAI in autumn of 2019, and you will be able to see this work in real life in our upcoming exhibition at Pier in 2022. As many of the artworks developed through using experimental geological and slightly unexpected approaches, and importantly, grew and transformed through deep conversation and active collaboration with our partner colleagues on this project, we thought it might be of interest to describe a bit of the process involved which led to each work. Each artwork has several key stages of development, from initial encounters in the field at geologic sites around Yamaguchi and nearby, from visits to quarries and mines, to slow walks inside AKIYOSHI-DAI, to in-depth discussion with many specialists about the science and natural history which is formed and is unique to this region, followed by studio experiments, both in the traditional sense within my studio and at production facilities, as well as in the wider creative space we find in the natural world through such geologically productive sites as Kibutani Onsen. Kibutani field sculptures. These sculptures were developed in a stream which flows from a rare geyser that erupts every 25 minutes at Matsunoyu Kibutani Onsen in Shimane Prefecture. On and off over 8 months, objects composed of plywood and crochet have slowly encrusted in a new layer of calcium carbonate rust-colored minerals. Although the length of time involved is much shorter, the process of formation for these new geological sculptures mirrors the same process which forms stalactites and stalagmites in AKIYOSHI-DAI over deep geological time. While AKIYOSHI-DAI is considered an ancient geology, these field sculptures can be thought of as young or newborn geology, new calcium carbonate cousins. We worked very closely with Tanaka sensei and Matsunoyu to create these works, looking forward to field reports to see how each new object had grown and changed within the springs. The last sculptures were taken out of the water at Kibutani Onsen just days before they were shown at the AKIYOSHI-DAI Museum of Natural History and KARSTAR GEOPARK Center. My deepest thanks to Tanaka sensei and Matsunoyu for their generous and open approach to this experimental art science collaboration. It has been a truly inspiring learning process, and an honor and a pleasure to develop these new works with them. Marble meets malachite, a new series of 3 engraved mini marble sculptures with pure malachite ink. Locally sourced Mine marble from Ando Marble Quarry. Arare, hailstone, marble for large and medium works, and Usugumo, delicate cloud for small, traveled to Scotland in February 2019. Inspired by material in AKIYOSHI-DAI Museum of Natural History, field observations in the ancient copper mine of Naganabori, and the distinct and crystalline features of these particular samples of marble, I made a drawing for each piece of stone. The drawings were then digitized and etched into the surface of the marble by a laser cutter at DCA Print Studio in Dundee. The delicate etched lines were filled with bright malachite ink, reflecting further on another significant local mineral story, namely through the incredible history of Naganabori copper mine. As we learn that copper and malachite develop in calcium carbonate environments, these artworks also bring materials back together again that originally grew in the same place. From coral to limestone, a triptych of woodblock prints with Chichimatsu Tokuji washi paper, indigo dyed, and field ink made of daido, white, and mishima, red, earth, as well as deep blue lapis lazuli ink. Tokuji washi is one of the intangible cultural heritages of Yamaguchi City, with over 800 years of history. Daido and mishima earth are an essential base material for HAGI pottery. The deep blue ink was chosen to respond to the indigo color of the paper, as well as for the area's strong mineral narrative as a historic center for the production of fine pigments. The images within the woodblock prints are informed by the landscapes and materials of Yamaguchi that I encountered during my field research, and creatively reimagine how the limestone of AKIYOSHI-DAI formed, first as a coral reef, that over time traveled and changed into the karst landscapes we encounter outside today. These, as well as each related series of prints, were made at the DCA Print Studio. MINE-AKIYOSHI-DAI, a series of TAKUHON prints with Mine marble, Tokuji washi paper, and field ink made out of red earth from the Ando Marble Quarry in Mine City. TAKUHON is a printmaking technique which involves translating the surface information of objects onto paper. Put a paper over marble and wet it with rice water spray. Just before the paper completely dries, apply ink gently with cotton pads. The resulting prints seem to map the complex structures and textures of the stone, following the deep geological stories of the Mine marbles. AKIYOSHI-DAI, Inside the Cave. A series of woodblock prints with Tokuji washi paper and pure malachite ink. These prints are inspired by field trips inside of AKIYOSHI-DAI cave. The rock cycle today. Calcium carbonate pellets on a copper plate. These pellets are used to remove the excess calcium or hardness from this region's local tap water. This is the most current chapter of our calcium carbonate story, which began as the fusilina and coral that created AKIYOSHI-DAI 350 million years ago. However, as these pellets are also used as fertilizer for plants, which we may eat one day, and we too are composed of calcium carbonate through our teeth and bones, we can start to imagine how we are part of a calcium carbonate cycle which continues on in new ways. The pellets are placed onto a copper plate, a nod to the ancient local copper mine of Naganabori, bringing mineral and calcium carbonate material together again. Coral. This coral helped us to imagine how the limestone of AKIYOSHI-DAI formed, first as a coral reef that over time traveled and changed into the karst landscapes we encounter today. Monogenic volcanoes traveling across the surface of HAGI pottery. In one of the next chapters of our rock cycle story, a small preview. We are currently working on a series of laser-etched HAGI pottery sculptures in collaboration with Kiyoshi Yamato, pottery artist of HAGI-ware at Meizengama Pottery Studio in Yamaguchi. HAGI is known as an ancient volcanic area, notably through an independent group of monogenetic volcanoes in Abu. There are over 40 ancient monogenetic or single eruption volcanoes in the area, and HAGI is one of the official national geopark sites in Japan. Volcanic lava has paved HAGI's geological and cultural landscape, including HAGI pottery, which has over 400 years of history. HAGI pottery mainly uses two types of earth base for their clay material, daido and mishima, which contains mica. For glazing, Meizengama use a glaze containing silica. Based on my previous experience of making laser-etched Scottish mica, also composed of silica, and studying the way the heat of the laser crystallizes the surface of the mica, we did a trial experiment with HAGI pottery at DCA Print Studio with the hope of seeing if a similar crystallization process might occur. Building on the promising results from this test, I spent some time in the studio of Kiyoshi Yamato to develop a new series of HAGI pottery sculptures with laser engraved drawings, inspired by imagining the process of the laser traveling across the surface of the silica glaze as a series of micro volcanic eruptions. As firings happen only a few times a year, we left the new ceramic objects with Meizengama, and some months later, once fired and glazed, they made the journey safely back to Scotland in the suitcase of Naoko's husband, Leslie Mabon. Currently, the objects are in Oban, and we eagerly await the time when we can return to the print studio at DCA to facilitate our micro eruptions. Perhaps alongside enjoying the live stream of the volcanic eruptions currently taking place in Iceland. We look forward to reporting back to you on how this evolving geologic story continues in Yamaguchi, Orkney, and beyond. Thank you all for your patience and for joining us on this spring day. Arigato gozaimasu. I think we're just now awaiting the arrival on screen of all of our wonderful colleagues.
Thank you, Ilana, so much. That's really wonderful to remembering our journey. And then it's quite surreal to say that we did this 2018, 2019, and then now it's 2021.
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Now we have all our colleagues in one room. So just remembering what we've done last few years, really. If you please feel free to unmute everyone, but so just a group conversation, really, and then I'm kind of gently leading this conversation. But just to begin with, just since last time we were together in Yamaguchi back in 2000, that was quite surreal to say, but 19. The world has been so much changed, I mean, since the time. And I just feel like, yeah, just the first question is that how you are really coping with this global crisis in Yamaguchi or in Japan. And then if we can start with Nakano sensei.
Okay. So what I say, this time the coronavirus in Japan was began, for my memory, so it started March 2020. So at that time it was suddenly became really feel serious, and there was an exhibition of that artist in residence at AKIYOSHI-DAI International Art Village, AIAV, but that exhibition has cancelled because by the order of the prefecture office. It was really surprise for us. So then started, as you know, that really restricted the life, and also in the university. So we studied remote class from the April. So it was really tough time, and but after October, we studied face-to-face and remote together. So then I think it's November and December in Japan. It's rather not so much serious time. So then, so there was an exhibition organized by Yamaguchi Institute of Contemporary Art, which called IKA exhibition we did in the Saikote, Yamaguchi City. So in that exhibition, Ilana also participated because we decided some image and also some movies from the overseas. So we accepted that way. So I think that is a kind of the new way for us. And maybe I'm thinking that is a selection of that how exhibition organizes. So how participating. So it was almost coronavirus pandemic is not so good, but that is a positive way of that thinking, I think. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think for instance, making exhibition, this has been changed. I think this idea of how we can approach that. For instance, and now we inevitably thinking about that how we can make exhibition without moving things. Well, that discussion should have been happened, I think, in the past to prevent the carbon footprint, for instance, like that. Let's not to use sending things by airmail, for instance. But yeah, I think there are some, well, lots of negative things, but also some positive things. I think this crisis brought to change our way to approach to things, I think. Yeah,
definitely.
Well, thank you so much. So Keijiro-san, how are you coping with this situation? Sorry, it's a quite big question, I know.
I don't know the best way to cope this situation, but personally speaking, my parents used to run a sewing company. So my mom especially kindly sent me many masks, and I have an image to share with you. So I want to show it to you. Like it's like this.
That's nice.
These are masks. These are a collection of masks that I received from my mom last 1 year or something. And then actually I have more of them. And then in terms of like exhibition, wait a minute. Yeah. So in terms of exhibition, I think Professor Nakano, summarized how we cope this challenge and under this corona pandemic things. I think we somehow managed to successfully, organize exhibitions and also get a very good number of international participation. So somehow we find an alternative, approach to get artists together and then, present some artwork to local and global, art community. So I think we somehow, did it quite well, and we are quite satisfied with the result.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And then the Yamaguchi has really has the rich art community, isn't it? It's the ICCA, Yamaguchi Institute of Contemporary Art. Am I correct? that has a 20 years of history of actually the bilateral exchange, isn't it? Scotland and Yamaguchi.
Yeah. Correct. Probably more than 20 years.
Oh yeah, that's true. Oh, sorry, that's maybe 30 years.
Nearly 30 years. I think so.
80s, isn't it? Yeah, that's a wonderful approach to the crisis. I think quite positive way to approach. Yeah, I remember you called for the interest through social media, and then lots of people responded. You said, I remember. Okay, I'll ask the same question to Tanaka Sensei. So, how are you coping with this situation just now in Yamaguchi or in Japan? Oh, Tanaka Sensei, you're muted.
Hi. Sorry. COVID-19 crisis is still serious in Japan, especially in Tokyo and Osaka, a big city. But that area is controlled by governmental regulations. But I think the regulation is not so strict than that in England. We have never experienced lockdown. Maybe you experienced the lockdown in your country. Is that right?
Yes, we did, don't we, Ilana? Yeah, it's we experienced it twice, right?
Even maybe 3. We've been on 3 rounds of lockdown, I think. Yeah. It's all blurs into one long, strange period of time.
Yes, on and off, isn't it?
I can imagine the lockdown in the city. What's happened? You cannot get outside. Is that right?
Yes.
Once
Even
a day.
to department stores, or I'm not sure, but all is closed. Is that right?
Yeah, the essential stores are open, the supermarket and those shops are opened under lockdown, but pubs, restaurants, non-essential shops or places are closed, and the movement of people are really limited within the council area, isn't it? We can only travel in well, it's supposed to be stay in the home, really.
Stay home. it's a catchphrase of governor of Tokyo. Say what's the name? I don't know. Koike-san. It's a catchphrase of stay home, stay home. It's okay. And in the Yamaguchi Universities, so Nakano Sensei taught before, the first term in 1990, last year. That's all lectures, including experiments, seminars, and so on. Given remotely, almost on demand. But second term, the lectures are given by hybrid system, combination of say remote and face-to-face. But this year, from the April, basically all the lectures are given and face-to-face. That's right. But we are afraid because now it's a golden week in Japan. So many people moved to anywhere in Japan. So we are afraid that a bad man, I don't know what is bad, come to Japan, to come to Yamaguchi. We afraid such kind of situation.
Yeah, I think the educational world has impacted. Well, there are lots of places really impacted, but the education, especially international students across the world, I think they are really have a big impact because
right.
Yeah, they don't know, they don't know what's their situation, and then the remote, the lectures, that's not something they expected, and then they don't know when they can go home, and that's I find that the international students are quite having difficult times. Yeah.
But fortunately, in the university campus of any cluster infection has not happened. And unfortunately, it's some about 20 or something students infected, but they are infected in downtown,
right?
In karaoke-san, not in campus.
I see.
But I think we have learned one important message from this crisis. That is, world is one. No boundary for COVID-19. So we should think about not on my country, but the whole world. We should consider. That's my impression about this crisis. But,
thank you very much.
But I'm fine now.
Good.
Okay.
That's one of the main concerns. Yeah. Thank you very much. So I have one question to each speakers. So Nakano Sensei, in your contribution to our publication, there are some important keywords such as transcendent intervention and peripheral viewpoint. As an artist who is also a researcher, working in academia, how have you been finding your experience in involvement in this project?
Yes, as you said, cross-disciplinary arts and intervention arts and performative perspective view are very important to me. When I was doing art activities based in the Yamaguchi Prefecture, which is not a big city in Japan. So Yamaguchi University is a comprehensive university with many faculties. Also, the Faculty of Education, to which I belong, is a faculty where people with different specialties gather. So to speak, like a Japanese lunchbox, which different specialties coexist in the same faculty. So for that reason, I've been familiar with several geography researchers in the same faculty more than 10 years. So one of them was a researcher from Bulgaria who studied karst topography with Bulgarian Karst Research Group, held art exhibition and held a competition art exhibition, including children. Along the way, I wanted to connect AKIYOSHI-DAI International Art Village, AIAV, which handles contemporary art, with AKIYOSHI-DAI Science Museum. So I met Ilana and Naoko. And the AKIYOSHI-DAI Academic Center was opened by the Yamaguchi University. The project started because it opened in the AKIYOSHI-DAI Science Museum. So this was a different territory from the world of the fine arts and the world of the science. I think we needed to open up the new layer. For the reason, I thought that Ilana's works are very suitable for the open up that layer. So that is my reason, and also that my interest about that.
Great, thank you so much. Well, similar question really to Keijiro. You chose a poetic format for your contribution based on 5 different materials: water, sky, stone, garden, and paper. As an artist, how have you been finding your experience of involvement in this project?
My basic practice is actually coming from my anthropology-based studies. So I usually take field work, and then when I moved to Yamaguchi City, I had a chance to explore many places in Yamaguchi Prefecture. So that's why I was probably chosen to be a guide for you guys when you guys came to Yamaguchi. So through this, field trip, I became quite knowledgeable about the features of Yamaguchi environment. And then as I explored last 10 years, I became quite interested in stories associated with each materials or element in Yamaguchi. So I thought I can, emphasize the story behind the materials, or even phenomena, or things around. So that's the way how I get those materials involved in my projects and practice. Then I thought, poetic form is quite interesting method to tell audience, and also to make people imagine stories behind. So like materials, even this paper is from Chijimatsu-san's WASHI paper factory or studio. But probably if you can look around your near environment, you can find a paper. So this kind of mundane materials are actually everywhere, universally exist everywhere, near everyone. So that's one of the ways to connect me with, people outside or some other countries. But, we can feel closeness, but also we can also explore original story behind it.
That's great. Now, your contribution really, workshops as well. Your workshop was kind of guiding us back to the original landscape, which was very nice, I think, way to going back to the original point of the inspiration. So thank you so much. That's wonderful. Tanaka Sensei, in your contribution, it indicates that if we think of AKIYOSHI-DAI's limestones as science, and Ilana's new sculptures made at Matsunoyu with you are art. Even though the time spans and speed involved were different, the carbon formation process in both was the same. As a scientist in applied geology, how have you been finding your experience in involving in this project?
Okay, can I use PowerPoint? Yeah, okay. 始めていい？ごめんなさい。早く短くします。Okay. My name is Kazuhiro Tanaka, as a geologist specializing in groundwaters. I would like to give some comments on this project from the geologic and the scientific point of view. I think that the three stories with different time span and the same scientific rules are discussed in this project. First, the AKIYOSHI limestone. This one was formed 300 million years ago, about 300 million years ago. And coral, foramifera, ammonite, that's kind of living goods, things fix carbon dioxide during their growth, and then making a limestone here. This is a photograph under microscope. This is coral. This is very small ones. It's 3 millimeters length here. And the second, cave and secondary products in cave. Limestone is dissolved by groundwater that is rich in bicarbonate ion and form this types of cave right here. And the secondary products, right side, such as stalactite, stalagmite, limestone, are formed in the case in the cave by degassing of carbon dioxide, and several 100,000 years. Okay, and this third, the experiment done at the Kibetani Onsen, hot spring is erupted in the mountain areas and flowed down this slope. This is a close up here, and this is groundwaters. Has a spray and splash like here. And surface of the object, these objects of wood and textile were petrified by calcite on the surface due to the degassing of carbon dioxide. This is very hard, but it took only 2 weeks, excellent. And similar products are known in the world. This is very famous one. It's Pamukkale and Turkey, World National Heritage. And this is York in England. And this is Kibetani Onsen, as I said. The York in England, I watched the TV program that maybe a tourist for tourists. In Japan, and I watched the groundwater flow down here. And this is some is a door, some is I'm not sure, many kind of stuff is hanging here. And then groundwater flow down through these stuffs, and then the surface of the stuff is petrified. They say, if you drop your hand into the waters, your hand turn to stone. It's an impact, a very, very impressive word. Next, I would like to explain the mechanism of how to say, I lost petrified mechanism. This is this picture showed the relationship between the solubility of calcium carbonate, and this is carbon dioxide. And this is oversaturated, this is unsaturated, this is a saturated zone. If the point is plotted here, this is oversaturated. So and maybe this is one sample. 20 centimeters is a saturated line. That's 1% carbon dioxide. If this one is degassed, that means the contents of carbon dioxide decrease like here. And then a point is plotted here. If so, this is precipitation, the oversaturated situation. So this amount of calcium carbonate is precipitated like here. And secondary, sorry, I cannot see. Oh, this is covered. Okay. Secondary products in cave and petrified object in Kibedani onsen. That is formed by the almost same mechanism, just same mechanism, but it takes 100,000 years. In this case, only 2 weeks. The speed, rate is very quite different here and here. Sorry. Okay, we challenge to make new equipment because we think that degassing of carbon dioxide is very important factors to precipitate of calcium carbonate. So we make jump stand like a ski jump, and groundwater flow down here and jump here. It's like a spray or splash like this, and then attack this object here. So carbon dioxide really is degassed here, maybe. So we want to make a spray, a splash here. And degassing of carbon dioxide, oversaturation of carbonate, and precipitation of calcium carbonate. It takes 6 months to complete this idea. Okay, I would like to summarize the precipitation of calcium carbonate. First, AKIYOSHI limestone, that's coral reef, about 300 million years ago. And second, this is a stalactite, stalagmite limestone. It's precipitated in the cave. Okay, it takes about several 100,000 years. This is formed in natural condition. I don't know, maybe science. And this one is a petrified object. It takes about 14 days, 2 weeks. It is a kind of artificial, I don't know, formed in artificial condition. We can say this is art. So these phenomena are thought to be caused by the behavior of carbon dioxide. Although time span is different, it can be thought to be a carbon cycle shown in these figures. This is chemical formula, the limestone is dissolved by the groundwater, which is rich in carbon dioxide, and make iron like here. This dissolution groundwaters, and then reverse reaction has happened. This is precipitation, stalactite, petrohead object, and the coral reef. So dissolution and precipitation is repeated like here. This is a part of the carbon cycle, we can see. And also this is groundwater, this is stalactite, a petrified object, coral reef. It's also, I'm not sure, but maybe rock cycle. In this case, ionization is important. This is degassing is important. So summary, I'd like to summarize my talk. Formation of limestone, dissolution of groundwaters, precipitation of calcium carbonate, all one thing of the carbon cycle. I trust that we reproduce the part of this cycle by engaging in the same natural phenomena, formation mechanism. I'm sorry. And materials across different ways of questioning, examination, and time spans and speeds in science and art. Cross-disciplinary approach made this significant international collaboration between Japan and Scotland. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. That's very in-depth presentation.
Sorry.
Thank you so much, Tanaka sensei.
More than 5 minutes, sorry.
No, that's interesting way for us who are usually working in art or visual art world to listening into this kind of approach, or how to see this phenomena, how to understand this phenomena. That was inspiring. What you or Wakita sensei in Yamaguchi University, the scientists approach one phenomena is quite different from, for instance, I speak to Ilana, how we can make this into art form or into sculpture. That's quite different. So that's very inspiring. Thank you so much. I'd love to talk a bit more, but I'm mindful about the time as well. So maybe it's a good time to open the space to wider comments, and then what do you think, Andrew?
Yes, I think that's a good idea at this point. So I have a question here that someone is asking. It would be really nice to hear from Ilana just a little bit more about just exactly what will be seen in the exhibition when it comes to the Peer Art Center.
Mute. Yes, absolutely. So I'm really looking forward to the exhibition and to all of us working together in real life, and the joy of the materiality of the rock cycle, ideas, poetic ideas, and actual material. I can say, working here for the first time in a year on Butte at Mount Stewart, there's a deep joy in returning to a materiality. So I'm so looking forward to that when we get to the moment to do that together in Orkney. And so we can anticipate, we will be seeing the body of work that you have seen or gotten a glimpse of, that was made between Yamaguchi and Scotland over the last few years. And so the work that I made in collaboration with all of our colleagues will be, well, it's all living now in Scotland, but it's waiting for the moment when it can travel to Orkney. And we're still in the production stage of the new HAGI pottery collaboration. So this is the next step in a process linking those territories and ideas together. So we'll look forward to returning to Dundee to the print studio to make the next step of our volcanic eruptions with HAGI pottery ware and sculptural collaboration. I'm extremely looking forward. Nakano sensei, I won't say too much about what will be shown with from each of our wonderful artist colleagues, but I'll give one hint for Nakano sensei will be showing in part a sculptural work, which was very inspirational to me and to the very start of the project when we started looking at kind of cross-fertilization of ideas, thinking about processes of growth. And I remember Nakano sensei explaining that he had worked on a collaboration with another colleague in AKIYOSHI-DAI, in the cave in AKIYOSHI-DAI, that was looking at digital 3D mapping from the interior of the cave, and then working with rapid prototyping to make through a digital additive process a small version of what we would experience in real life in a very vast scale inside of the cave. And this struck me a lot, and we discussed this, that there was a link between thinking about really new technologies and new growth technologies. So thinking about a 3D printer as an additive growth process, and then realizing when we stood, we could stand together in AKIYOSHI-DAI in the cave and witness a limestone growth process, which was also an additive growth process, and that there was a relationship that we could learn from the growth process in the cave to these new technologies that we think, oh, these are such new ways of thinking about the world. And actually, these very remote geological processes are kind of like the first rapid prototyper. So some of that body of work of Nakano sensei's will be coming to Pier. And Keijiro, perhaps you would be best placed to talk about some of your contributions to the upcoming exhibition as well, which, beautiful and poetic work we will get to experience.
My works. One of them was probably, no, actually, no, sorry. The works that will be shown are, things that I created in Yamaguchi, and then, as I mentioned, the answer to Naoko's question, most of my work represent or emphasize the features of Yamaguchi environment and also culture and those kind of stuff. So yeah, my work will emphasize the international collaboration and then also comparison between Ilana's work and work from Yamaguchi. So it should be quite interesting to see both in one place, which hasn't happened yet. So I'm quite looking forward to that, chance to see everything together in one place.
Yeah, me too. I'll chime in as well. Sorry, another jump in. That because of the pandemic, we originally had a planned field visit that was meant to take place last June, where Naoko and I would be able to travel to spend some time on Orkney and with our colleagues at Pier and with local archaeologists and geologists in order to spend some time exploring together. It will be my first time on Orkney. And so, yes, it's always been a place I've dreamed of going one day. And so this project allowed that moment to be coming to fruition in real life. And so we all had to, go on pause. And so what we hope as well is, as things begin to open up, that Naoko and I will be able to replan the site visit or the field visit, and would anticipate the opportunity to learn and spend some time in Orkney, and then to develop some new work in response. For example, I know there's one site that, please forgive me if I'm now mixing it up because it's been a little while since we've talked about the site visit, but there's a stromatolite outcrop, I believe, that I would love to spend some time at, because thinking about the rock cycle, we're very interested as well in looking at sites that are places we encounter now as geological sites, but that are really formed and traces of biological life, which has then gone through a process to become stone. And so I think in Orkney, there are many inspirational places where we can witness that phenomena. But Andrew will probably be able to correct me if I'm not stromatolite, but in fact,
there are some fabulous sites and great geological interest here. So yes, you'll be able to see all of that. So I've got another question here, which is someone might want to pick up. So if I stood still in the petrifying stream for 2 weeks, would I become a sculpture?
That's probably Tanaka sensei's place, but Tanaka sensei, someone said that, do I become stone if I'm standing in the pond? Eh? Oh, Tanaka sensei, you're muted. Hang on.
I recommend maybe you should stand for 2 weeks. No move. Just stand.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Sorry, another from me, another jumping in, but just Ilana mentioned about the Nakano sensei's piece to be shown. I know that Nakano sensei made a little presentation, so I wonder if you could share a little bit of the picture of that. Oh, Nakano sensei, you're muted. Oh, Nakano sensei, you're muted, I think.
Yeah, this is topography of the AKIYOSHI-DAI Karst Plateau. So I'm collaborating with geologist Kyoko Kagohara, so who are my colleague in the educational faculty in Yamaguchi University. So we made this kind of images. And also we made topography like this 3D printer. So this is a kind of the model of the project. So maybe when the exhibition, so I can present more about this. Okay, thank you.
Great. Yeah, that's the adding process Ilana mentioned. And I think that's very interesting, the resonance between organic formation and then digital formation, as Ilana mentioned. That's grand. I can see one hand is up. Andrew, it's not.
Sorry?
Or maybe not.
I have a question for Keijiro. Just I wonder how you feel that art can help communities to recover from the pandemic, just in a in a general sense.
How can art?
Yeah.
What?
Difficult question.
How can art? I don't know. Artists, utilize interesting perspectives towards reality, life. So we can, like this project, we get or put, different things together from different fields, and then using non-traditional perspective. So maybe, through this, new alternative perspective and then ideas can break through this, problem. then I don't know, we all artists are trying to figure out how to survive all the time. And also seeing the society or mainstream from the remote place, or from the side, or how do you say, like outside in a way. So maybe we can suggest some kind of a new lifestyle or new value, new way of thinking or something like that. And so exhibition that will take place at the PR can actually suggest like environment, new energy, and different culture, history, and so on. Yeah, and then I think Ilana want to say something.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
If that's okay, I was going to say that's a very beautiful way of thinking about it, Keijiro, and it also makes me think about what Tanaka Sensei finished, the note he finished his presentation on, or I was going to say, or maybe finished one of his questions, the answer to the question, Naoko's first question to Tanaka Sensei, when he said, one thing that this virus has taught us is that we're one connected world. And I think as artists, also as scientists, and as humans in this world, and especially speaking from my own perspective as an artist, thinking about the ways that we are interconnected across the world as part of one living organism, maybe artists can bring something, and scientists and thinkers, to the table about different ways we can connect to that sensibility in terms of making or helping to reform what this world is. What does it mean in a meaningful way for us all to really be connected?
Yeah. I wanted to also add that probably like 5 or 7 years ago, when I came to Yamaguchi City, I somehow get to know about the Patrick Geddes from Edinburgh, Scotland. And then his phrase, like important phrase, think globally and act locally, is actually quite striking to us at this moment. As we just discussed, like all the world is connected, and then each action is actually influencing the changes of the world. But also we can actually change the world by our own will. Then I think like Okini is interesting place to get connected, to think about natural energy. And also geographically speaking, Japan and Okini Islands are kind of interesting, similar location away from a continent area. There are so many things in common, but also there are so many differences, but we can learn from each other, even though we are living in remote place, like separately living in different parts of the world. So I think, this kind of a Zoom meeting or a webinar or some other learning opportunity will give us more chance to think differently, I think.
Good. I've got one further question, which might be the final one, but it's just kind of picking up on some of those themes that about making some of the themes that we're looking at here accessible to people, to visitors, to children. Maybe this is a question for you, Naoko, that through art, that it's often a good vehicle for explaining complex
absolutely
ideas and things simply. So perhaps you maybe reflect on that a little.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's very good question, and then kind of question that very difficult one to answer, but kind of question that I really need to address as a curator, I think. And then in Yamaguchi, we experienced this question, how to tell the story, whole complex story, and then the story that deals with 300 million years of story. So it's quite a tough thing to tell this story in an easy way. But I think, I don't know if this can be an answer, but for instance, when we make a event in Yamaguchi, we had quite similar format as today, actually. We had Ilana's talk, and then Tanaka sensei's quite scientific perspective, as well as we invited Keijiro's field workshop, which physically, literally kind of taking us back to the field. I mean, the landscape itself that gave us the original inspiration. So in this pandemic situation, it's still we have a distance, but Keijiro, this is, I hope that's a nice way to introduce Keijiro's video, which will be published next week on Kodomo no Hi, the Children's Day in Japan. That is a video of workshop of windmill making, which is called Kazaguruma. That's a handheld size. Yeah, that's what Keijiro has. So this is inspired by landscape of Okuni, which has always strong wind and then no trees. So that kind of way to think about the landscape, our landscape, is one, not the perfect answer maybe, but one approach, I guess, to address this difficult question. Always difficult to tell this complex story, and then constantly I need to think about how to address, but yeah. Thank you very much for that question.
Thank you, Naoko. I don't know how we're doing for time. Not sure if there are any further questions. Check this chat.
Yeah, if anyone in the panel, if you forgot to say something, or maybe one thing, very quick thing, try not to be long, but one thing maybe we didn't have time to talk about was that Tanaka sensei mentioned about STEM education, which is not the STEM, S-T-E-M, more widely known. Tanaka sensei said that the STEM, S-T-E-A-M, that apparently stands for art. So Tanaka sensei, if you could give us a quick kind of, oh, you're muted. Tanaka sensei.
見えてます絵は。
はい。
絵は見えてます。
はい。
はい。
Okay, I'll give you my comment, another comment. It is thought to be important to develop STEAM education in society 5.0. The STEAM education is an approach to learning that uses science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics as access points for guiding student inquiry and dialogue and critical thinking. And also Society 5.0 is a human-centered society that balances economic advancement with the resolution of social problems by a system that highly integrated the cyberspace and the physical space. This means maybe in Society 5.0, we are expected to be an expert in not only technology, but also art. In this case, art means the art itself and design and liberal arts. Therefore, Rock Cycle Yamaguchi is, I think it's very significant because the project is done between the artist and scientist. And that is a collaboration between art and science. Okay, this project is done by two kind of people, art and scientists. It's very important, I think. So we need such kind of people, okay, interested in art and interested in technologies. So I hope new reactions, I don't know what the reaction, new idea, new concept, new system, I don't know, it should be originated from this project between art and science. I think it's very important. So this project is very, very significant. I think we have no chance. We have no chance talk with the artists. This is first time for me to collaborate, but it's very important for me. So I was taught from artists many things. It's a very fresh and interesting experience for me. So I'd like to say thanks to Ilana-san and Mabon-san.
Oh, Tanaka-sensei, thank you to you and Keijiro Nakano-sensei and all of our colleagues, Wakita-sensei, for the openness to embark on this project and exploration together. It's been a wonderful experience. I'm speak for myself to say I'm so excited to see how it continues to develop and our conversations keep growing and changing and evolving with new branches. And it's been wonderful.
Yeah, lovely. And just echoing Ilana, but thank you so much for hosting us and then having this opportunity to experience such a great journey. So that's wonderful. And it's ongoing. We haven't finished quite yet, and we are looking forward to having the Okuni strand of the activities. And in Okuni, as well as exhibitions, as I mentioned, hopefully colleagues, here in the room can come to Okuni, and then Keijiro will make, hopefully, the field workshop as well, which everyone will be welcomed to experience the Okuni's landscape this time.
Good. Naoko, just maybe before I round up things, you might want to just explain how people can get a copy of the book.
I nearly forgot. Yes, so the book, this is a book launch, sorry, I nearly forgot. So during the book launch week, so until the 1 week from today, you can purchase a book at the specially reduced price of £10 plus PNP, the shipping cost. The normal price is £12. So little bit kind of smaller price. And you can buy that through peer art centers bookshops, physically or online, or through myself. I have a wee shop as well. So you can always email us too, just asking the copy. And that's just 1 week.
Great, thank you. So I think maybe the time is running out. So I'd just like to say a few words to thank everyone. So thanks to Naoko and Ilana, Kazu, Naka, and Keijiro for a fantastically interesting series of talks and presentations. And I hope our audiences enjoyed hearing about the project, and we very much look forward to bringing everything here 2022 all going well, and looking forward to that very much. But just a couple of things before we finish. So to coincide with National Children's Day in Japan, which is Wednesday the 5th of May, we're going to launch the Keijiro's windmill workshop. So people can participate in that. All you need is a piece of paper, a pencil, or a piece of wood, or a stick of some kind, and a pin. And Keijiro will take us through just exactly how to make the windmill. So you'll see that through our social media channels. Just keep an eye on that. And just finally, just to mention that you can join Ilana and the director of Mike Stewart's visual art program, Sophie Crichton-Stewart, at another Zoom event to launch Ilana's forthcoming exhibition. There is a volcano behind my house, which is next Saturday. Is that right? At
Yes,
3:30, and I believe that's open to anyone that can join that.
Absolutely.
Just head to the Mount Stewart website for details.
Oh, thanks so
For
much.
that. So I'd just like to thank all the panelists again for coming along and giving us their valuable time. It's been really great and fantastic to make that connection between Orkney, Scotland, and Yamaguchi, and you know, we look forward to being able to pick up our conversation in person at some point, you know, whenever we can, and to welcome you all here to Orkney. So I think we'll close at that. So thank you very much, and goodbye for now. Goodbye for now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.